back to JP's Budget Collecting, and we were back for another round of Sandman. We are on to Volume 5, A Game for You, and I got my usual crew with me. We got my man Unruly Simeon. What is going on?
I want to holla, but the joint's too small.
All right. I like it. We got my friend Kavi, comic book.
I didn't quite catch that. It was so much static.
I'm just going with it. So.
Yo, yeah, good to be back, Sandman. Let's do this. Game of You. This is an interesting one, I would say. It's and it had been a minute since I'd gotten to this part of the reread again. So I think it had been definitely a few years since I've read this one.
Yeah, looking forward to talking about this one because I have thoughts. And Jennifer, what is going on? Comics will break your heart. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, excited to talk about this one. Yeah, we'll get into it.
We will definitely get into it. So,
I'm also curious to see like what everyone else's thoughts are, and I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, okay, I generally know like what everyone else's thoughts were about the first 4 volumes, so I'm curious to see. Like, I think I know how this person's gonna feel. I think I know how this person's gonna feel. So,
well, we will see. So normally I let you guys kick this off. I will tell anyone that's been following along with our discussion at home. So we decided to stick to the way the volumes go, then not the way the issues go. So this is volume 5, which is issues 32 through 37. So we skipped 29, 30, and 31 because they're technically in volume 6. So we're going to do those next time. So we are talking about issues 32 through 37. And I'm going to give Unruly the floor here. What do you think of, and I keep saying it wrong, it's a game of you, not a game for you. I keep saying
game of you, yeah.
Yes, a game of you. What do you think of a game of you, Unruly?
This particular arc is the last of the first Omni.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy this. I love the characters. I love the journey. I like her whole, the reveal at the end of the basis for a lot of her companions.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartwarming, and I also like how it shows us the growth of Dream, even though he's a very tangential character to the overall story. What little we do get to see of him shows you just how far he's come since his imprisonment. And I like the art. This art is to me, it speaks to me. And there's at least half of the whole run that the art to me is trash. I've always liked A Game of You.
Yeah. All right. Kavi, what about you? What do you think of this? What's your general overview thoughts of this one?
So I think what I remember from originally reading it the most, from back in my first read through, whenever that was the Barbie in the city with her crew, and that was like my big takeaway in my head. Okay, that was like the main thing from that story that like in the cobwebs I remembered, and then I think more of the finer points about creating and uncreating this world, herograms and pentata, whatever that other, what was the name for the jewelry thing, the necklace thing, penta something? I don't know.
The pentagon.
Yeah, there were all these like kind of high level concepts that I had forgotten about like that I think that was the part of the story that was harder for me to retain long term, having not read it, relatively recently.
Porpentine.
Porpentine, Herogram, Scaries. There's definitely some words that I don't ever say or use. So there was a little bit of readjusting to like, okay, well, what was that again? But I think overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this volume. Like, I wouldn't put it in my like, these are my top 5 Sandman volumes, but I wouldn't put it in my bottom 5 or bottom 3 or whatever either. It's kind of like, it's somewhere in the middle for me as far as.
I was like, wait, it's not top 5, it's not bottom 5. Where does it go?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it would be in the middle somewhere. Yeah,
it's right there to 5. So out of 1 to 10, it's 5. Okay.
I know we haven't really ranked it that way, but now that we're like a few volumes in, like it's one that I enjoy for sure. Probably more so for that like trio or quattro of characters right there that you have with Hazel, Foxglove, Barbie, and what was the other one? Wanda, yeah.
Yeah.
So I quite enjoy the scenes with those characters, but definitely some odd story elements that are a little bit that take a minute to like sink in. I think in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Jennifer. Would you rather I give you my thoughts first, or do you want to go at this point?
Either way.
Well, go ahead then. I usually save myself for last. So
Okay. I really enjoyed it. The thing that I remember from my first read was I remembered Barbie as a character, and I remember her face paint. I remember that specifically about her. I don't know why, but then and I remembered a little bit about Thessaly, and I remembered a lot about Wanda.
Thessaly, that was the other one. Yeah.
And so reading this again, I forgot how much Dream is not in it. And going back and reading it, I really I almost enjoyed it. Like I love that it was this one self-contained arc, and it was at least, how we were reading it in this volume without the other issues that were out of order, whatever.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. I love the artwork because it's Colleen Duran and I forget who else the artwork.
Right. Sean McManus, Brian Talbot, Stan Woke, and Colin.
Yeah. So I really really enjoyed the artwork. I loved that it was not about Dream, but not in the way that we had Rose. Her story arc was like back and forth between her and Dream and back and forth between other things. I liked that it was one arc and it was like the same set of characters for the most part throughout the entire thing. A lot of things from the previous arcs, previous issues show up in this. So I really enjoyed it. A lot of themes kind of came full circle.
Okay. So I'm going to say, I really did enjoy this.
But there's a but.
Knowing that there's all this other stuff they've expanded on this world later, I feel like, is this really part of the Sandman story? Because of the, I don't know. It just because I know he's written all these other things, and it's like, is this really part of the main story? Because it is Dream is not really there.
Yeah.
Although I will say I agree. I think Unruly said that he does, the couple of moments he shows up are very revealing about where he's at and where he's gotten to. I like these side characters. The world is kind of strange. Some of the stuff that happens during this volume with the cuckoo and then her what was it? Was it George? The guy that lived upstairs.
And the bloody head thing on the wall.
Yeah, I mean some of it is just strange, just weird, and
well, I guess he was killed in a bathtub and then put on a wall.
Yeah. And the lady on the subway, and there's just some weird elements that maybe he's gonna
What's her name?
They mention it at the very end.
Rudy or something?
It's at the very end. She says it when she's talking to.
Is it Alva or?
She was in the first issue, and then she comes back around to
the
final two issues
or something. I don't know. What is it? The woman, Maisie.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, and maybe there'll be more connective tissues to this story and these other characters like Thessaly and stuff, and it's but I enjoyed it thoroughly. It just was kind of a weird aside that I feel like is in the middle of this story about Dream, and I realized the Rose thing, but I felt like the Rose thing connected more to Dream's story. Whereas this is I don't know, and maybe it'll come back around. It didn't keep me from enjoying it, but I did think it was kind of weird that it was these 6 issues that were just kind of, we're going over here for a while. So
I think I think that's why I like it though, is because there have been previous issues that have done that, or previous 2-3 issue arcs that are we're going to go over here for a little bit. And to me, they completely the diner, I know I'm going to bring it up every fucking time we talk about it, but the diner episode, I'm like, why the hell did we need the diner episode? But then we do get characters from the diner episode back in here
Yeah.
So I liked that it was like, hey, we're over here, and it did it in a completely different way than we've gotten that before. I liked that.
Yeah. So I didn't shout out the couple people we got in the chat. We got Sharon, Life with Two YouTubers hanging out with us. Rena's hanging out with us. Gorbadal, who apparently we missed out on with. And I didn't really, until you mentioned that, I didn't really think about it as being kind of an Alice in Wonderland, but it completely is. And that's a very good comparison that I hadn't thought about.
Mm-hmm.
So I had not thought about it from that perspective, but that does make a lot of sense now that you say that, Gore. All right. So anything else you guys want to touch on before we start digging?
I mean, completely unrelated, but I like how Kevin Eastman gave Neil Gaiman like a place to crash while he was writing this, along with two other people that like. So he was like, I think he wrote these issues while staying with Kevin Eastman and two other creators like at random points.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Back then when he was
back then when he like had to like couch surf.
Exactly.
Now
early
hotels
90s.
are like, please stay here.
Exactly. Yeah. But all right, what was your question, JP?
No, I was just if there was anything else you guys wanted to touch on before we start digging into the actual story here.
Alice in Wonderland, or is it more the Wizard of Oz-ish?
Oh,
yeah.
See, I got Alice in Wonderland, but now that you say that, I totally see. I do see.
Yeah, because they're running the evil witch, and she has to follow the road. And
the road.
She even mentions the yellow brick road at one point. You are correct. And
yeah.
Isn't it the Moonrise Road that they use to get to the dream world?
Yeah, when they stumble across the road in the woods, and it does make more of a because they got to go to the city and by the sea and the island. Like they're making a destination. It's a little bit. I see that unreally. That is. I do think I think it's a little of both, but I think maybe more Alice or Wizard of Oz than Alice in Wonderland. But both comparisons, I think, work pretty well. Similar.
I was gonna say just real quickly before we get into specifics. It's the Dave McKean covers for the issues of this volume have more. I feel like a little bit more of a connective thread than some of the other volumes, which is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a random observation, but whereas the other covers feel way more, I guess, abstract and kind of like you can maybe make leaps between what's on the cover and what's in the story and try to connect loose dots in some of the other volumes, but it's not a direct representation of what's the story is inside. Whereas in this, there are direct references to like character things like Cuckoo, and every single cover almost says a game of you on it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whereas the other ones didn't really lean that heavily into like covering the story with these McKean collage cover things. So anyway, just pointing that out because we don't really get to talk a ton about the McKean.
Yeah, and the weird thing is like because they all have the it's a little more focused on
a little more connected to the story that covers.
So we open this with some strange characters talking in a cave that appear to be hiding out in some kind of world, waiting for a princess. And then we open on our princess passed out in New York.
Barbie.
And we quickly get to meet her companions that Kavi talked about in these first few pages. Meeting Wanda and I'm gonna blank on Hazel and Foxglove and Thessaly and George. We kind of meet all her building mates. What did you guys think of this introduction to this part of the world, to Barbie and her little group of friends and hangouts here in this building? Kavi, we'll let you start this time.
Well, is this where do they get right away into the pregnancy thing with Hazel, or is that
not yet? No, this is just this is Wanda comes and is bringing her coffee and looking for cream, trying to get her to go shop.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I don't know that there was a ton. I don't know if there was like a ton of clues there as to what was going to happen in the rest of the story. Maybe I missed the clues, if there were any, but. As someone who lives in New York City, I felt a authentic kind of vibe to it. I didn't live in the city in the 80s, though, which is, I think, what this is trying to portray. But but I enjoyed the way that those characters were kind of just organically introduced, kind of doing slice of life normal things, right?
Right.
For the most part. So, like, I think they're just like, let's get coffee, or
Yeah. I mean, it's a very much like it could be the story initially could go anywhere until like after they're on the subway and they meet the Maisie who doesn't like dogs, and then
she does not like dogs.
She does not like
dogs.
And that's Martin Tenbones, right?
Yeah, Martin Tenbones. Until we meet Martin Tenbones, where it seems like it's going to be a little more grounded, maybe story.
Right.
And then it's like, oh no. So, Unruly, what do you think of the Wanda and Foxglove and just the way they introduce the?
Well, they do a 2-page aside with Dream, right? At some point in this.
Not the first issue, I don't think.
I thought they did. No.
No, I think it's in the second issue. Or no,
it's the first. Yep.
Yeah, it's the first. You're right.
There's like two pages.
Yeah.
He's talking to Matt.
I really enjoy the characters. I like Wanda. We don't really get to see Foxglove or Thessaly much in this, but we do see it's basically her and Wanda, going on a nice little coffee run and then running into Martin Tenbones. And then we see George, what a weird, twisted freak he is. And then it's on to the next issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy these characters. Thessaly, Tom said it in the freaking comments a minute ago. She is the standout to me because I really admire someone who can be that dedicated about vengeance. Because I've got it in me. I think I've said this before on this show. So if somebody does me dirty in the moment, I can lose my temper. But the next day it's faded, and a day after that, I don't even really care. But to really be able to hold a grudge and go call down the moon and go to Dream to hunt this, how dare you do this to me down, I admire that. So she's the most interesting character to me.
Yeah. What about you, Jennifer? What do you think of this introduction of these characters?
I agree. I think that the introduction is pretty interesting. We get to know more about them later on, but I agree. I think that Wanda was a standout character for me, and the one that has resonated longer in my mind about it. Like, I knew going in that we would get Wanda in this, and then I love Thessaly. We get to see more because in the way that she's portrayed in issue 1 is just like she's not all there. She's maybe, I think they refer to her as like a bimbo but with book smarts, which I kind of identify with. I like that. But then later on we do get to see her as this really no nonsense character, which I really, really also like. So there's more of her. I know that there's maybe 1 or 2 standalone books with her.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I will think that would be something like knowing that there are more stories with Thessaly that makes it, for me, I feel like it definitely is needed after this overall. Yeah. She is the character
she can't just go away.
Yeah, she's the character that has the most potential, I think, going forward, obviously. For me, I will be honest, it took me a while to remember that Barbie had showed up before. I was way into this.
Right, in the Rose Walker story, yeah.
I don't think it clicks until she says she's sitting with Wanda, and she's like, "Oh yeah, when Ken left me." And then I was like, "Oh shit! It is Barbie from 2 volumes ago." Yeah.
See, I didn't even. That is not when it clicked for me. I was almost to the end, and I was like, okay. I kept thinking why we're spending so much time with her, and before I really remembered, and I had to go back and look after I got done reading it, okay, yeah. So I was way slow. It did not click for me that it had been too long. I'd already forgotten. So, but I really enjoyed it. I agree that Thessaly and Wanda are probably the standouts. Although I do like the way Barbie is portrayed in the fact that, as Score talked about, she is kind of lost and, and where she's going. And I do like her arc through the whole of it. But yeah, Thessaly and Wanda are the standout characters, I think, in this volume and this crew for sure. So we do get, like I said, we do get the little aside with Dream here. We also get to meet Pranado, Luz, and
Wilkinson, my boy.
Wilkinson. Dang it, I could not think of
I love Wilkinson.
Yes.
I don't know
So
why.
we get to meet them, like this monkey rat, and I don't even know if he's a rat. Is he?
Wilkinson's the rat, right?
Yeah. And a bird. And then we also get to see that George is not what we think he is. Is clearly like not just a creeper, but like some sort of supernatural creeper thing.
Yeah, because we see him at the end where he's like he's eating the bird.
Yeah, he's
literally eating crow.
Yeah. And then we see that he's got a giant poster of Barbie on his wall. It's just like, yeah.
Creeper.
Yeah, for sure. So any other thoughts about this first issue? I feel like it is very much just an introduction to these characters. Like there's not a ton going on here. It's a complete groundwork issue. Anything else you guys feel like that you want to bring up from this one?
The thing that I liked about it is that because it brings back Barbie and it fleshes her out a lot more than what we got to see from her previously, because she was really just a background character in those issues. So yeah. I think that because we get to see what ends up happening in this is that we do get to see what's the big dog's name again?
Martin Tinbones.
Yeah. So we get to see him. And she's clearly like affected by him. She's saying, I haven't had dreams in 2 years. He's part of her dream. So she like recognizes him, but doesn't know why she's so sad that he dies. And he dies right in front of her. So I love that we get to see that characterization with her, that we get to see a little bit more depth in her.
Right.
And she's obviously like clearly upset about this dog. Why the hell is there like this huge dog in the middle of the street? Why am I so upset that this thing just died? Yeah.
Yeah, we get to that there's something more to her not dreaming than what we have initially thought, or than it could be. Like because Wanda doesn't believe her. It's like, you don't dream, you just don't remember it. She's like,
you just don't remember them. Everyone dreams, duh.
Yeah. So, and then when she gets this, the porpentine, this little pendant that Martin Tinbones gets to her, like you see her like the birds, and she's like, no, and you see her like, okay, yeah, now I'm definitely not going to dream because she's afraid. But at the start of this second issue, we get the Hazel coming and talking to her, and this is the whole pregnancy thing, and
right.
For the life of me, I just didn't
feel like they didn't really resolve that necessarily or pay it off. But
I mean, they built it, they resolved it, I guess, in the fact that Foxglove accepts her.
She accepts her.
Like doesn't
she says like we're gonna need more money to raise
this. But I guess my confusion is just like I don't feel like it's Hazel the two of them are set up well enough, and there's not enough. Yeah, I don't know that there's enough payoff here for why we spend as much time on this as we do. What did you feel about this, Jennifer? We'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I agree. This is one of those things where I'm like, I think that could have been left out. Like, it felt more of a poke of like, hey, let's go ahead and poke fun at these lesbian characters by making one of the lesbian characters cheat on her spouse and get pregnant. It felt icky, right? Yeah. That's the only way I know how to describe it, as far as that.
I mean, she comes off as very naive and a victim.
Like a coworker drove me home, and my we were both drunk. My spouse wasn't there. He just said that he promised he wasn't going to do anything, and then things did happen, and now I've missed my period.
She doesn't come off as very likable or even sympathetic here.
Yeah.
Dumb. Yeah.
She really didn't feel sorry. It felt more like, I don't know.
Yeah. It was just very odd. And really, what do you think about this?
I remember when I first read it, I thought she's just not that bright.
Yeah.
That's an understatement.
But rereading it, I think she's more naive and sheltered. She's not meant to be sympathetic.
Yeah.
And there are grown people, I've met them, that somehow make it to be 40, 50, 60 years old and don't have a clue.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're not, they're mentally deficient. They just, they Forrest Gump their way through life.
Yeah.
It happens. And that's the feeling I got on the reread, was that she's just naive and sheltered and genuinely. And look, I'm never going to judge anyone on a sexual misadventure, because I think every human has that in them, right?
Yeah.
But and I didn't feel it was superfluous necessarily, because it's setting it up for these characters down the line. Because Hazel, God bless her, does have a good heart, and
Yeah.
she is genuinely worried about. And we don't know her motivations.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't feel like necessarily pandering to me, but I might be still looking at it through that lens of when it first came out.
Right.
And plus, I'm an old straight guy. I don't know shit about these things. Seriously.
Well,
You're like, I didn't know lesbians could get pregnant, just like hate. No, I'm just kidding. I liked. I definitely agree. I like that point of view, and I also like Gore's point of view that it is about how Hazel reacts to that, and that, or sorry, it's about Barbie and how Barbie reacts to Hazel in this moment. So you're right about that.
yeah, it does provide some depth on who Barbie is and how she treats her friends and how she,
Like,
it
not
makes her more of a sympathetic character, because you don't really know a ton about her. She doesn't have a lot of depth coming in. She had no depth coming into this from the previous story, so it does give her a little bit of depth. But we go into this and her trying to stay awake, and you can see her like dreaming about them on the TV, and she's slowly slipping away. And I do think the moment we get revisited by Nula. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it. But Nula,
the fairy,
that got left with Dream, that kind of against her will or whatever, and we see her kind of give her a warning, and I do think that leads to the moment that we talked about before of Dream being, because it doesn't even come to, I think, the next issue, but I think it's, where's it at? When she tells Dream what she did, and like I feel like there's where Unruly talked about it. It's a really big sort of moment of growth. Yeah, it doesn't come for like a couple of issues that we get to follow up. And she kind of confesses that you told me to watch her, and not to do anything, but I warned her. And he's like, okay, that's all. And he just kind of walks away like he normally would. But to see him come back and, tell her that she did a good job and that she did the right thing. Like that he actually like stops himself and comes back and talks to her, I think is a big difference for me. What did you guys? I know we're skipping ahead for that moment, but I think it just goes here. What did you guys think of that little development for Dream? I know he's very barely in the story, but I don't remember whose turn it is to go first. We'll let you go.
No, exactly. That was one of the moments I was referring to. Obviously, he's more grounded. He's more beginning to realize that he can't stay above the fray, I mean, he is connected to us or into other creatures, other beings, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think Death, way back when he hooked up with her, gave him the kick in the mental ass he needed.
Yeah. Tommy, what about you, man? What do you think of that little...
I don't really have an opinion on that necessarily. I mean, to me, the more interesting part of the issue was like the birds flying out of the like skeleton of George into people and then causing them to dream again. And then just, I know that it eventually gets there to that part of the issue, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I really concentrated that much on that Nuala moment, I guess.
Well, I just thought it just led to a moment for Dream that I just wanted to touch on.
Right, but it was like so later on that I did forgot. I forgot.
It didn't connect for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, especially the first time when I got to the second part, I was like, well, what were they talking about again? What did she warn her about?
It is like an issue and a half later. So it's
yeah,
like,
so I got a little bit lost by it, to be honest, but that's fine.
that makes sense. Jennifer, do you have any thoughts on that before we go into the George thing? That was where we were going next, for sure.
I definitely agree. I think that we do get to see a little bit of his character development, and Dream's involvement in this feels like that character development where he understands his responsibility a little bit more. So to me, it's like maybe what Death had to say to him, like, these creatures, like, we're not necessarily above them.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that he's more invested in them mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I guess, at this point. And then this just shows how he's more invested in it rather than just like, you did something bad to me and I need to punish you. It's more of like something happened in my kingdom and I'm the caretaker of that kingdom, not necessarily its ruler, even though he is very much like, these are my lands.
Right. So we do get to see that the follow up of that is Hazel does fall asleep, or Barbie does fall asleep, and she ends up with Wilkinson and back in her little dream world. But then the follow up is that we get to see George is not, strictly human, and he basically, once everyone in the building is asleep, he sends out. I guess they're supposed to be. Are they supposed to be cuckoos?
Is it ever like actually named or quantified exactly what he is?
With George's, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Right? I don't think especially ever says what he is. It just, and the birds I feel like aren't crows. I feel like they're more like, I guess they're supposed to be cuckoos is what they're actually supposed to be. But
the way that he mentioned is that he is also a cuckoo. That's
what
I got, but I don't know how that works.
I remember also the children of the cuckoo being a thing.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what the difference.
I don't either. I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever really explained exactly what he is and what these little bird-like creatures are. But
I do find that like once after he's murdered and it goes that direction and then all of a sudden you have people that are not there anymore. Therefore, the silent spell broke or whatever, and then he started being this kind of like jokey jokester McJokeson on the wall. Like I just find that hilarious.
Yeah.
Personally. Like once it gets to that, I think that's the next issue maybe, but.
Well, yeah, because it ends with like the sequence is he sends the birds out to invade all of their dreams and to basically put them in nightmares so that they don't get in his way when he goes to deal with Barbie, or at least that's the assumption of what he's planning to do. But yeah, he wasn't counting on Thessaly being more than what she is.
Yeah.
And smart. It like that Thessaly is really, really smart, and because I think we see everyone else's dream or nightmares that George goes into, and maybe how he is affecting those dreams / nightmares.
Yeah.
And then Thessaly is the one that's like sees through it and was like, I knew you had, because she immediately goes to Foxglove and yes, but then she goes to Foxglove and Hazel and is like, you had a bad dream, didn't you? Okay, come on, let's go. Yeah. Like that no nonsense, just direct and to the point.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very much, you see her, she takes care of the bird and goes immediately to George, and we see her like, hey, George, can I come in?
Yeah.
Like, and then the next time you see her, she's going into everyone else's dreams.
Sorry, that's the next issue. I jumped ahead a little bit.
Issue, but it's.
I mean, but that's when the volume starts getting more exciting, I guess, as like a page turner. Is that third issue for me?
Well, yeah, and then the end of this is basically Barbie getting her quest that she's got to go from Wilkinson and Luz, and that she's getting her quest, and we got to go through the Citadel of the Cuckoo and through the forest.
Right. Don't they run into another dead character, or I don't remember if it was an animal or a human character, but
they do, but not yet.
Okay,
that's in the next volume. So yeah, it's just them telling her what she's got to do, and her, is where this would end with her going, okay, then I guess we're going, on the quest. And but yeah, we go back to Thessaly basically knocking on it after she kills George. All the birds disappear, and they all wake up, and they're all terrified from their nightmares. And she's basically going door to door to see what his target was, and to pulls them all out. Like, oh, you had a bad dream. Oh, you had a bad dream. Yeah, and that realizing that Barbie's in trouble and getting them to help her.
I did appreciate how, because we get to see like each character's dream. So we get to see Hazel's dream where she's having a like nightmare about being pregnant. Right. And you see her have this very like grotesque baby. And then Foxglove is also pregnant. And then she has like a healthy baby. And like that to me was like more so than like the crows coming out, more so than like any scene in this entire book where the like other baby, the
monster one baby like eats the one. Yeah.
That's probably one of the most horrific like scenes in comics I've ever seen.
That was really, yeah.
That was easily the scariest of all the nightmares.
Oh yeah.
And didn't she say once it launches down on its brother, it's coming for us next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that panel was just
yeah, he doesn't shy away from mixing a little horror into his Sandman story at all.
Like, really psychological too. Like I'm just gonna go ahead and, for anyone who wants to see it, I'm going to put it up on the screen. For anyone who doesn't want to see it, please look away. But like you see this like grotesque baby just sorry.
Yeah. And that's not even the worst panel. The next
one's much worse.
Yeah. So basically we get so Thessaly goes and rounds up everybody in the building. They find Barbie and she's like, okay, bring her upstairs. And they're all like not understanding what's happening, and she's basically like brings him into George's apartment. She's like, "Oh yeah, I killed him. He's dead."
It's wait. You want to bring her into? Why do you want to bring her to George's apartment? And you'll see. Let's go.
He's in the bathtub. What? Oh, I killed him. She's so matter of fact. She's like, I killed him. He's dead. It's fine.
Well, she's very old, has powers that we're not quite sure of.
Yeah.
She's got an inkling of what's going on. And for what she has planned in the immediate future, killing some weird pervert is like, business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
No big deal for her.
Yeah. Well, she's the only one that really knows about Dream already. And she literally directly references the Dream King. Let's not mess with the Dream King. Let's try this other way, which a little bit confusing as to exactly what they did to get there, but I just believe it.
I mean, it is, and this is where I think there's a little bit of like, I feel like Thessaly needs, and maybe she gets it because you guys said he uses her like it's
because Barbie's there via the dream world.
Yeah.
But she's physically in the real world. They use the moonrise
to physically go there. Yeah.
To physically go there.
Yeah, they use the moon road. And
their physical manifestation in the real world where George and Wanda are actually disappear.
Yeah.
And then George wakes up, and that's how the issue ends, I think.
Yeah, but
or like George's face is on the wall.
Yes, he uses his face to figure out what's going on and who who actually guided this. And we see that she's very as we get quickly when they're on the moon road and when they get where they're going, is that she's very much only doing this not to save Barbie, but because she wants revenge on the thing that dared attack her. And but this is kind of where I feel like we need more explanation of Thessaly, because she takes a pretty as we get to the end of this, and when they finally interact with Dream, I realize I'm jumping way ahead, but she's taken a very big risk by doing this.
Mhm.
Like,
But
so
she
her-
knows what she's doing. Like, she's clear about the rules.
but yeah, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's very interesting that, like, and I assume we're probably going to get it and that kind of stuff, but it's very weird that she chooses this path and it really doesn't ultimately gain or anything. She takes a big risk to really not gain very much, and takes them on a big risk to, I mean, she uses helping Barbie to get them to go with her, but I'm not even sure what she needed them for other than to conduct the spell. I guess maybe she needed more than one person, but
The only thing I think that she mentions that she specifically says, Foxglove, I need you because you're on your period and I need like blood from you.
yeah.
That to me, like, that's where, like, I guess I understand using that as a device. But I feel like, I don't know. You're right. Why did, other than the blood, why did she need them as well? But maybe it could just be that we see that she maybe has a disregard for human life. So maybe she's just like, fuck it, let's bring them along.
Yeah. But we see it does have consequences, because the moon, like, we see, like, the lady on the street down below, and, like, the moon really does come down to get them.
Yeah.
And, like, it messes with the weather and causes this big storm that we see later. So, Thessaly is really kind of just wreaks havoc in this one without really accomplishing a whole lot. Is where I feel like
It has serious implications for the people who were left behind.
Yes.
Which I don't want to spoil it, but we'll talk about that.
But
For
I
sure.
love her attitude. The others are dust and now and less than dust, and one day you and your turn will join them. And she's like, maybe, maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then on the very next page, you have disrupted the order of things enough this night, Thessalian. One day there will be a reckoning. So you have said before, you and others like you.
Yeah.
She clearly has zero fucks to give.
I mean, yeah.
She fucked around and found out, and it worked in her favor.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was a much better way of putting it.
No, your way was much better.
But yeah, it's one of those, you see the thing with this barren field, and they're like, see all the fucks I have left to give you. And that's Thessaly for sure.
I can't, as we're saying this, I can't wait to see Thessaly in the show. If second season, third season, fourth, fifth season, I would love to see Thessaly get her own damn show.
Yeah. See, definitely, there's a lot to build on, even with what little we get here. And
then later, she throws the same attitude at Dream.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give it away yet, but there's a great panel at the very end, when Barbara's got to make her choices, and there's Thessaly whispering in her ear, no, my way is better.
Yeah. All right.
Speaking of great panels, I mean, I hate to skip ahead, but that could be like my single favorite.
Oh, with the sand, and it turns to you see a city in the sand, and it's
when he's got the whole city in his hand, and then he blows it in the next panel, like that 2 to 3 panels.
Yeah, the whole world. Yeah,
and that was
quite
definitely
possibly the best in the whole book. Possibly,
yeah.
It's. I mean, there's many great panels though. So
it seems like that's a pretty a throwback to the first issue, right?
Yeah,
or first or second issue where he does something similar, right? Like there's something.
Pose.
Yeah.
But I love the whole city in his hand in the preceding panel, followed by it's so good.
Yeah.
Hey.
So
that was what? Who did the art on that issue? It changes every issue.
It's so hard to know.
Something we haven't touched on. I love Wanda's nightmare too, where with the whole Bizarro analog and his fears of transitioning. That was well done.
Yeah,
I agree.
It was by McManus.
Mm-hmm. because I think that we do get to see, like, we get clues that she's transgender. Like there's like little nods to it, but here, like, we really get into this, like, I I'm not necessarily being fully a woman or whatever. Me having this surgery doesn't make me more of a woman, and like
Right.
being afraid, people do it or don't do it for so many different reasons. So I think for her, like, we get into the psychology of that character a little bit more, and she gets to explain, like, no, I'm still a woman, like, even if I don't have a surgery.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know what the blue is that a sticker? I don't know what that is. The blue is a different thing, but thank you, consensual. So yeah, I don't know. That's a different symbol than normally when somebody does a super chat or a sticker. I don't know. That was a little different, but thank you.
That's fancy.
Yeah, so I appreciate it. So we transitioned from there, and obviously, so yeah, Wanda gets left behind, and yeah, she gets left behind because basically Thessaly's like, well, you're not a woman, and so she's having to deal with that,
Which is just rude.
It's just rude.
That was rude, Thessaly.
It was rude, but it's also like Thessaly's being very matter of fact about how the magic works, and it's not, but yeah, she has no, as we talked about, she has no tact,
Yeah. I just want to show this panel once again. It's pretty disgusting. So if you don't want to see disgusting, so there's this moment. We know she's already killed George. We know she's very matter of fact about it, and she's like, I need to cut his face off, and I'm going to pin it to the wall, and this will basically allow him to see. I'm going to put his ears so he can hear. And then she's like, oh wait, I gotta get his tongue so he can talk. And homegirl literally just goes up and bites his. Sorry,
that was pretty creepy.
She is,
but awesome in a way also.
And then just one other thing, I know we're giving a lot of props to Thessaly. Just another thing that I really love about homegirl is this entire time she's walking in a bathrobe and bunny slippers. This entire issue, it's bathrobe and bunny slippers for her.
She's doing all these things, and so. Well, you definitely don't need to send it to me, but I appreciate it. So, thank you, consensual. And then I love that. So we jump back to Barbie traveling through this winter land or whatever, through the mountains and the snow, and trying to find their way, and they find Murphy Murphy protects, what is it that who's this guy that they were looking for earlier that one of them knew had died? Tantoblin, Tantoblin, and we get this message about that basically is talking about like how cuckoos work in the real world. And I'll be honest, like I would say here, is I'm still not sure I fully understand what this cuckoo is when we get to the end of this. Like,
I mean, I've read it 4 times and I'm still not entirely sure about it.
I think the writing is so good that that's where my suspension of disbelief just remains intact, where I'm just like, you don't even have to fucking explain it to me, just show it to me, and I'm like, yeah, sure, cuckoos at this point, like it makes total sense. And giving me an explanation makes it worse.
Yeah, I don't know that we need one. It was just like maybe somewhere along the line we revisit the cuckoo, but it was just kind of the strange thing that I didn't fully like. The story about what real cuckoos and how they function and how they don't make their own nests, that they rely on other birds, is like, which is real, but it's like I'm still not sure what insight it's really supposed to give us, other than this thing is like latching into other people's brains, I guess, to use to develop. I don't know. It was just an interesting way to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
But So we
maybe there was a really angry like reader note in a previous issue where they're like, Neil Gaiman, what the hell is going on with these cuckoos? So then he like felt obligated to be like, okay, in the next issue, I'm just gonna write an explanation for these damn things.
Well,
to make
I did find this issue to be one of the better reads. I think, like, wherein that I didn't feel like I really paused in this issue, and it kind of like the journey starts, and then they get to the place that they need to go by the end of it, and in between we sadly lose some of our party, right? Like our Hobbit party that we've gathered to get there, and then by the end, you already get the reveal essentially that she's going back to her childhood house, right? Not a citadel.
Yeah,
and that's
but
kind
it's
of
not.
the
It's not what
reveal.
she was expecting that she was
Right.
going to, and yeah, this issue is really almost entirely like you get a couple. We got 2 pages with Wanda, and is there one other aside? I was thinking there was one other aside here.
Yeah, there's a page with I think there's
And the page with Dream that we talked about earlier.
2 pages with Wanda, Barbie asleep on the couch, and George.
Yeah, and then but really it's just about we get the entirety of her journey through
Right.
Wonderland or Oz here until her capture, and we see Pernado and Wilkinson are killed, and Loves turns against her, and we're like, what the heck? And we kind of get a feeling for why he turned against her here, like that he was clearly being manipulated. When we meet, which we don't meet till the end, but we see the house, and then the opening page of the next issue is we meet, I guess technically the second page, we meet little Barbie, and we
this
meet the
bitch.
cuckoo. It's kind of her form. So what did you think of the cuckoo when we finally meet the cuckoo here? Gabi, we'll let you go first this time.
Well, I've read it before, so it wasn't like a shock or anything. I'm trying to remember back, like, it's very difficult for me to remember back to my original read through.
Yeah,
like
it's been a long time ago.
Exactly, if that reveal was like surprising to me or not. I think it was, but I like it though as a general story twist or plot point, and I really liked seeing sort of the stuffed animals and like her room, her room from being her childhood, and all of the sort of little elements of her childhood room being turned into the land, right? Did we ever get any other name besides the land, or am I?
For this particular one, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that sort of explanation of everything, or or reveal of, I guess, how this sort of dreamland was, where the inspiration for the dreamland comes from, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. What else did they discuss in those first opening few pages besides?
I mean, it's basically her manipulating, like, getting inside of Barbie's head, and basically getting her to be like, "Sure, I'll kill myself for you."
Right, and she shows her like a doll, I believe, right?
Yeah, well, you get to see. We do get the reveal of where all her friends, companions come from. That there were her stuffed animals as a kid. And so we get all of those, but basically we're seeing her powers that she's able to, like, just by talking to her, like, get control of her.
That one line that always stands out to me that little Barbie the cuckoo says is, "I'm your imaginary fiend." Like, I love that line. That's like one of my favorite lines in Sandman.
When I was reading this, I had to like go back and reread that several times. I'm like, wait, was that a misspell? Oh no, it wasn't.
No. Yeah, it's just good writing. But yeah, that's a good exchange right there.
Yeah. I forget where. I'm trying to find it again because now I don't remember.
And then they quickly cut back to all that New York City like radio commentary and what's going on with the weather and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Then they're giving us the update on the weather. And really, they go from the weather turning really bad in New York to them still walking the moon road, which is really what caused the weather to go to crap in New York. But we see them actually arrive in Barbie's dream world, but she's like, and Thessaly's like, no. Well, she's like, well, I suppose she's using it, but it's much older than her, and we get the, that she's just kind of
old.
taken over a part of this particular dream world or whatever was created by others.
And I think maybe one of the reasons why, like, I don't know if they brought Foxglove and Hazel here because this is where they have that like kind of like argument where it's like I'm mad at you, or like I'm still mad at you no matter what, but hey, we're gonna raise this baby together. So there is that moment here between the two. So I don't know if like that's why the two were brought along, I guess.
Well, it might be part of the original spell. Because Foxglove's blood, and there's strength in 3. 3's a powerful number.
Yeah, that's true. So I think it's just clearly she was using them for the spell, but it is the reason for being here does seem very odd. Like they're not really gonna serve much of a purpose, but what makes Barbie? Yeah, he's talking about the character she created from her imagination are as real as one of the others, and
My favorite line from their little initial conversation is when Barbie says, "Is this real or is it just my imagination?" And the cuckoo says, "If you can tell me the difference, I might be able to tell you."
Yeah.
But she explains who she is. Like, not you're me, not quite. I'm part of you, sort of. You created me, kind of. She's some sort of outside entity that slipped into this world, into Barbie's imagination, and got left behind when Barbie stopped dreaming. And she's like, and we find out later she's tired of spinning her wheels in this tiny little world to her.
Yep.
Yeah.
She feels trapped. Yeah.
She's gotten herself trapped here, and she's wanting to escape. But it's clear that she came there to basically feed off of Barbie and everything else. So it's she is not a benevolent, or she is a benevolent force for sure. But so we go back to. So we get there, and basically Thessaly's like, well, I'm not here to help Barbie. I'm here to kill the cuckoo. And it's. But she's like, it all leads to the same place. That's how these stories work. And she knows how this comes together. And we get to see the whole thing where she brings back Wilkinson to give him information is just kind of, again, just shows you how Thessaly just does. She's just like, nothing seems to faze her.
Not at all. Was that this one where she walks up to Wilkinson and she's like, what is it? Are you this? Oh, you are? Okay, I'm gonna kill you. Was that this was previous, right?
That was the last issue. But
that was the last issue.
Yeah. This was the one where essentially they ultimately make their way to Dream.
Yeah.
Dream,
or to the Thorn Island, or
Dream tears down the world, or he has all the characters from the world walk into his cloak. That's a pretty iconic scene as well.
Well, yeah. Did we get all the way? It ends with the issue ended with the previous issue ended with her getting control of Barbie, and then this whole issue of them getting there, and basically you do see the power of the cuckoo as they arrive to try to help Barbie or to kill the cuckoo, and she sends Lois to basically trick, she goes and tricks Thessaly and uses Lois so that she can start talking to him. And even as powerful as Thessaly is, like, the cuckoo manipulates her pretty easily once she starts talking. I mean, you can even see, like, Thessaly's like, what? Like, where she saw right through the stuff, the lesser magic that George had to, like, control them. Like, she's in this case, she's not really a match for the cuckoo at this point. What did you guys think of that? How that went down?
I think it's interesting that she...
I felt bad for the dodo bird.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's what I was thinking of, because she goes up to... Here, let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, so she goes and she's like... why is this not... she's like, "So you're the cuckoo then?" Yeah. And then just snaps his neck.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
needed to be taught a lesson.
Yeah.
Well, it's just funny because she's like, even Thessaly's like, immediately, and yes, that was the lesson, and you don't get a second chance. If anything, she was the kind of thing I think she was. You don't want them to talk to you or let them talk to you want to talk to them or let them talk to you for just a few seconds is all they need. And you see, yeah, and the cuckoo is basically using those few seconds already. Like she knew what she was dealing with, but she still failed to detect what was going on. So ultimately, the cuckoo gets what she wants. She gets Barbie to destroy the porcupine or whatever the heck it is, and the stone that was kind of holding this world together, and to bring about this world so she can escape. And as a result, yeah, as Tommy talked about, Dream makes his appearance.
Yep. So I love that set of that panel right there. It's like the two at the end.
Yeah, those pages are awesome.
Where it turns into his eye. I love that.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Yep. Love that.
The star becomes his eye, and then he's just there. Yeah. It's a really well done little sequence, 2-page sequence there.
Meanwhile, back in NYC,
got Hurricane Sandy going on.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Hurricane Sandy approaches.
Things are hitting the fan back in NYC, for sure.
And I love the chick that's doing the graveyard shift on the radio.
Yeah.
Did you catch the name of the radio station?
The WRAT, the Rat.
The Rat.
Yeah.
Rat, yeah.
It's actually a station that I grew up listening to in Jersey. So.
Yeah.
WRAT, the Rat. I don't know if it's around anymore. I think.
I'm sure they keep the call sign. Somebody's got them.
Yeah, it might be talk radio at this point. You never know.
Never know.
Probably.
But yeah, that's there was quite a building collapse at the end of the issue there, which kind of I mean, the final issue of this almost feels like a what's epilogue? Is that the right word for it?
Yeah,
it sort of is because we get
yeah.
Because Dream arrives and he basically
some amount of time passes in between, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after Dream arrives, we get that the cuckoo didn't actually know. That's not what she was expecting to happen. And basically, he's able to wake everybody up from the cuckoo's influence. And you get that amazing panel Kavi talked about before of like all the creatures of the world walking into his robes, and then him, and then you get the originator because we know that it's not
Alienora was the first cuckoo.
Yeah, was the first person that like created this world that he created this world with or for, originally that the compact was with. And yeah, you see it, the whole thing with the whole world. We showed those panels earlier, but just a great sequence. And he gives Barbie a boon. And yeah, he has his little talk with Thessaly here. And yeah, and then we see the building. And then we go back to New York, and bad things have happened as a result of Thessaly's actions. So anything else?
I like how I forget who it was, but how they were calling Dream Murphy or something like that. Like
like what's his name?
Murphy. Yeah, short for Morpheus. I guess.
Morpheus. Yeah.
And here's Thessaly to the bitter end, and your Thessalian friend wanted to kill her. Should I kill Thessaly for you also?
Yeah.
Don't push your luck, Dream King.
Yep. Sassy all the way.
Yeah.
And then Barbie, tell him to eliminate the cuckoo. I'll get the rest of us back home somehow.
Yeah.
And she would have.
Maybe. I mean, probably, but yeah. So the cuckoo turns into a bird and flies away. So the cuckoo ultimately gets what she wanted. So she's still out there wreaking havoc somewhere. And yeah, Thessaly is not a happy camper.
I love that panel. I love it.
So one of the questions that I have is it corn that had that as their album cover?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't
I don't
remember.
know. I have no idea.
I
I'm
don't
gonna look
either.
that up. Give me 1 second.
I know they worked with Todd McFarlane at one point on artwork for one of their albums, and even I think for one of their music videos.
So this is a quick Google search. This is one of their.
Follow the leader, right? Follow the
Yeah.
leader. Yeah.
So then, if you see the panel with Thessaly,
Yeah, that was the album they worked with Todd McFarlane on.
Okay.
Yeah.
and then that's the panel. Oh. Ah,
And we're flying away, running to fly away. Yeah.
Yeah.
The little one. Yeah. Oh, that is good. Yeah, they did kind of take that.
Nice.
shape.
okay, so kind of see them together
Yeah.
in one.
Yeah. Cool. I did not know that. So
I didn't realize that either until this. So
Wait, so are we on issue 6 now, or
Yeah, we're on the last
issue? Okay.
yeah, that all that happens right at the beginning of the last issue. We get to flash forward to her in the bathroom putting her makeup on, but then it finishes up everything happening there with her decision to send them all home and for the cuckoo to get away. In the conversation with Thessaly and Dream, and all of that happens right at the beginning of this before we jump ahead to
the funeral of
the funeral.
Wanda.
And so
Or Alvin, I guess. But
Wanda,
Wanda.
yeah, I mean,
I love when she crosses out Alvin and writes Wanda. I mean, that's badass.
I just wish she'd done it with something more permanent than lipstick. But
yeah, like if she had like carved it. I think this is one of those times that Neil Gaiman gets applauded for being ahead of his time, for giving so much like backstory to a trans character in comic books, and even though like it treats a trans character in comic books much better than pretty much we had ever seen ever before, but also at the same time it's like, why did you have to kill, like you've killed all of your gays, like that in this book is like anyone who's gay like ends up dying.
Diesel and Foxglove, at least not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
So at least not yet. But I do feel like that was the one thing, like, it was, I definitely thought that was weird. The destruction of the building, and then the death of Wanda and the bag lady, Maisie. Like, did feel a little odd to me. Like, it wasn't
like you built them up so much just to kill them.
Yeah, like it felt anticlimactic, and it's like, wait, they're just gonna die? Like they weren't. I don't know. For me, that was the one part that I was like, I had trouble with as I was going through this in terms of why that was where the narrative was. Because it felt like it was a way to like force Barbie to move on and keep looking for whatever it is she's gonna be. But it was like, after this, was that really necessary? So I don't know. What did you think of this, Kavi? Give you a chance here.
Well, I mean, I think it adds some strength or depth of character to her. I mean, I particularly enjoyed, and this is probably more coming from Neil Gaiman's voice than the character Barbie's voice, or maybe both, but that whole sequence where they're basically kind of self-criticizing the comic industry a little bit with like, I know that multiple times they alluded to like, you know, Bizarro and Peter Parker, like, you know, parodies, but they also did the whole thing about women in comics and, you know, judgments people make about women
which goes into the comic
who are interested in superhero comics or whatever it may be. And there was that one line where she was like, I don't think they had swept the floor in a decade, and I bet the staff had to have taken unhelpfulness lessons. And there's so many, like, I'm not even a woman dealing with that battle of comic. I'm a minority, but, you know, I deal with different challenges. But just that line alone makes me think about, like, 20 comic shops that I've been to.
Yeah, that's like 99%.
And it's 2022, you know, and this was written in 19.
I still remember, like, you know, the shop I went to all the time when I was in college, and that guy, like, always was like, it was a pain that he had to, you were buying something from him.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, you begrudgingly do not want to buy a comic from some guys.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I guess I'll take your money. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a very.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen that character survive, but at the same time, I thought it was probably likely more about Barbie's character, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, Barbie was
main-
clearly the main
Yeah.
character, but Unruly, what did you think about that choice and that whole last?
And I did enjoy seeing Death finally pop up again at this point.
And I did enjoy the fact that we see Wanda as what Wanda.
Yeah, like the idealized version of herself.
Yeah, that Wanda in Death, Wanda becomes what she always wanted to be, sort of thing. And yeah,
so I enjoyed that.
I think one of the things in a kind of offhand way that Gaiman was doing is showing us the true power of Dream. But this is like this outpost of his kingdom that he hadn't even thought about in forever. And look at all the havoc this one little ARPA, I can't say that word, this one little island of his kingdom. Look at all the havoc it created in our world.
Yeah.
And then the cuckoo flies off to wreak who knows what more havoc. And this is just, and he just, in that panel we all loved, he just absorbed it all back into himself like it was nothing.
Yeah.
And this would be like, the 20 to him, this is like the quarter in the dryer for me. That's what I enjoyed. It's showing you how vast Dream is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I do think that was the next thing, and maybe the last thing I really wanted to discuss, other than is that we get to see like the understanding aunt who was still just so sort of awful, but yet was still the best of that family in terms of her treatment of Wanda. But and just how horrible like that family was, and you hear those stories of people that just don't get no support, and you get the what Wanda's life really was like, and it's just it's the funny, like the last thing Wanda would want is to be buried as Alvin, and yet they do it anyway, and then but at least you get to see that sort of on Death, on the other hand, treats her as treats her well, I guess, as in the afterlife she gets to be what she was hoping for. And so no, like I said, I really enjoyed it. There's a few things that it just like it felt odd. It felt like I was reading a different world or trade almost, but it was good.
I think especially first time through that it could feel a little bit jarring for some. This one, but I think upon subsequent reads, I've caught more things that connected to the previous storylines, like the Rose Walker thing, especially.
Yeah.
And it's one of those volumes that I feel like stands alone really well, but is also integrated really well. It's got strengths in both of those kind of things.
Okay. So, any other thoughts, you guys? Anything else that you wanted to discuss that we didn't focus on as we went through this?
So, are we reading Brief Lives next, or Fables and Reflections next?
So next will be Volume 6, which is kind of Fables and Reflections.
Going backwards in the issues, right?
So we would do 29, 30, 31, and then 38 through 40. And then this says it's 50 and Sandman Special. So, it's 6 is kind of a mixed bag of like they threw a couple different arcs in there. So
I know I don't recall exactly what happens in this upcoming volume 6, but I have a feeling it's going to be a mixed bag of like how I feel about certain things, because I know it's going to go like back and forth and kind of all over the place, but I know that I really, really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where I'm at with that volume too. think.
And then after that, it goes back to like all the issues are in order. But it feels like they kind of did this because there was like a short little a short story.
Well, Fables and Reflections is definitely like not a regular volume.
Yeah. So it's definitely kind of a mixed bag volume, but they wanted to make a game. I keep saying it wrong. Gosh dang it. A game of you. Its own trade, so they kind of just split it out in the middle of this other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, all right. Well, final thoughts on a game of you, Jennifer. I'll let you go first this time.
I think I do have to agree. Like this, it was a very, very enjoyable volume. One that certain characters and certain things that happen really stand out. I can't wait to see more of Thessaly and obviously get to see where Dream progresses. But I think that there are other volumes that are just so impactful that this one ends up getting shuffled to like you said, it's not the top 5, but it's not the bottom 5. But I think because the artwork is consistent, the storytelling is much more consistent, like the arc as a whole, it's really, really solid. So I really enjoyed this a lot.
Okay. Coffee, what about you? What are your final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I have I have pretty similar feelings overall. I really in particular like the Dave McKean covers of this volume, which I was talking about earlier. I think art-wise, the McManus work is probably the best for me in this volume, but Colleen's is pretty solid as well. I'm not digging on the other two guys or whatever. It's it's all good, but I especially think the McManus stuff elevates in this, and particularly those a lot of those panels with Dream and with the Moonrise Road, and a lot of like the stark contrast in shadows and colors that you get in this are particularly enjoyable, and also the outdoor scenes. Like I think I get almost like, it's not Lord of the Rings, but I get kind of like epic vibes, and like the third, maybe it was the 4th issue, like the one where they're going on the land adventure.
Yeah, where they're traveling through the mountains and then through the forest.
I particularly enjoy a lot of the different settings in this volume because you also have NYC, like in there, and so I always enjoy seeing that. It's a great arc. Like it's in the middle for me. Like if I'm forced to rank volumes, which I don't really like doing anyway, but it's definitely one of the more solid ones, I would say, front to back.
Yeah. Unruly, what about your final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, even your least favorite arc of Sandman is better than 90+% of everything that's ever been done by anyone else. To me, and this is
essentially
this is one of my favorites just from the whole story structure. And the Cuckoo is, listen, there ain't nothing scarier on God's green earth than a supernatural little girl. I give you Exhibit A, the ring. Exhibit B, that little girl in the beginning of the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Those two instances genuinely scared me the first time I saw them on screen.
Yeah.
Haven't seen either, and making a separate note here to never see either.
Yeah, I love this arc. I love it.
Yeah. So for me,
I don't want to be afraid of little girls.
Children are terrifying.
Creepy children are the worst. Yeah, creepy children are definitely the worst. For me, again, like I really, really enjoyed this. It just at this stage, it does feel like this kind of weird side thing. So that I don't quite know how to place in terms of what we've read so far in Sandman. I think as we get through the rest of it, I'll have a better feel.
Yeah, you'll get there.
Where it feels,
and then you'll reread it all over again, and then get to rank it. Yeah.
So it's hard for me to place. I really, really enjoyed it. I loved the mix of kind of this fantasy world and the real world, and this mix of characters. I really like the journey that Barbie goes on, and Gore talked about like her line at the end. If there's a moral there, I don't know what it is. Maybe say we should take her goodbyes whenever we can. I really like where it goes with her. And I like Thessaly and Wanda. I think they're really great characters. But yeah, it's hard for me to figure it out because it's a Sandman related story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I so far continue to love Sandman. Looking forward to the next volume. And with that, unless you guys got anything else,
I mean, there's more Dream in it than I remember. Honestly, every time I reread it, I get reminded of okay, here's Dream. Yeah, I think there's
always does great shows. Always does great shows.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, I mean, always looking forward to reading more. I wish there was new volumes coming from Neil. From Neil.
So upcoming for me, I think next week is Monstrous Volume 7, where my crew is coming back together with that. So with that coming out just recently, and that I definitely had to go back and start rereading like 6 to remember where the heck I was on that one.
Did you so today, I don't know if you saw this, but if you like Monstrous, Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda just came out today with the Night Eaters.
Okay.
So anyways, if you like Monstrous, I haven't read it yet, but it looks like a really cool
wow, that's like a whole book.
Yeah, it's done by Abrams art.
Nice.
I saw that solicited in IST. It's an original graphic novel, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll order it this week.
Yeah, I have not seen that. So very cool. So I think that's our next one for the indie show. And then after that, I think we're end of the month, we're kicking off Deadly Class finally. So I'm finally going to get around to reading Deadly Class. So
I've never read that one. Hear good things.
So yeah, it just sounds like something that's completely up my alley that I'm going to enjoy. So
who's your crew?
Right now it is Shy Comic Girl, Haley, and Bearded are hanging out with me on that, and we may or may not have a fourth yet. So,
I'm trying to think. There's somebody on IG that posts all the time that loves it. That I know we all know. It's just not coming to me.
It might be Dan. I know Dan loves from Comic Chop News loves.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
That is it. That is it.
So if the other person falls through, I might reach out to Dan. I've never had Dan on, so that might be worth it. So bringing him in. So
Gore's in the chat giving me shit. I actually hate Rick Remender a lot as a writer. However, Deadly Class is probably my favorite thing about favorite things written. Doesn't say much, but Deadly Class is actually not bad. Yeah.
Have you read Fear Agent?
I think it's been a while. Yeah.
Fear Agent to me was such a great roller coaster. It was like an Indiana Jones movie set in the future. I loved it.
It's like no.
I read Black Science originally, and I'm like, I really like this series. I read Low. I'm like, I really like this series. I like Rick Remender, and then I went back and reread it, and I'm like, I hate these. So maybe maybe I should go back. Maybe I won't go back, but
don't go back and reread.
It could go either way.
Yeah. So I think we're doing it. The 26th is when we're scheduled to do their first volume of Deadly Class Gore. So, all right. Well, with that, we are gonna get out of here. Thank you all. Thanks, Gore. Thanks, Consensual Sense Comic or Consensual Sense Slots. Rena and Sharon, who were in here earlier. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we will see you guys next time. Later. What, coffee?
I just said read Sandman.
Read Sandman.
Read Sandman.
Hey, I got a boogie, y'all. It's late here.
Yeah, I gotta go too, guys. Have a good night.